Here we are. We're back for another episode of the After Hours podcast. This week, I have the pleasure of sitting down with Zach, my dear friend who also helped me start this platform, and it's always nice to kick it with you.
Yes, sir. Feels good to be back. Season 3.
It's good to have you back.
There we go.
I know you just got back from Florida. You have a lot of good stuff going on.
Yeah.
With your own life and business, and it's exciting to see, a lot of the people that I've been around, at least the last several years, take that next step in business and in life, and I love seeing stuff like that. So happy to have you here today, brother.
Yeah, no, I'm looking forward to this. Yeah, and I think this could be just a cool moment because you're always the one interviewing, and then I feel like some people, they don't always get to see who Dean is, and I think that's the objective of this episode. I think it'll be cool to show a different side outside of the mortgages, outside of business all the time, but really get to know Dean. So I want to ask you, my first question is who is Dean when the cameras are off and when the phone's not ringing?
That's a great question. I'm a big believer in always, and I'm a big doer in always doing the things that I choose to do, in a way that is not a selfish way, but, if I want to go play golf this weekend, or if I want to do something with my daughter this weekend, or whatever it is in life, I feel like sometimes people they plan out their whole life. They know their whole calendar for the whole year or the month or the week, and that's not me. And in business, I'm very organized, and I tend to be very systematic because I believe that's what you need to do to be successful. But to go back to your question, who is Dean, outside of this, I'm just a person who enjoys doing the things that, I enjoy: golf, my family, my daughter, traveling, hobbies, things that can take my mind, not off work, because my mind is always thinking work. That's the business I chose and the industry that I love. It's fast moving, it's fast paced, it's 7 days a week, but as I've said before, I'll always make time to do the things that I choose to do. And that's, again, the hobbies. Like last weekend, I was in Utah skiing, and then we went to Canada for a couple days. I enjoy doing those things, and I'm grateful for being able to run my business while I'm doing those things.
Yeah.
I'm not saying it's good to do that every week and month and quarter, but there's a few times throughout the year where I'll always make that time to not turn things off, but turn things off enough in the sense where, you have to be in a different environment sometimes.
Yeah.
You can't always just do the same thing every day.
Yeah.
And that's another thing I love about this business. It's always something different.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. Yeah, I think changing your environment is so key. Just to see things from a different perspective. I think we get so caught up in this rat race when we're doing the same thing every single day, and all it takes is going to a different state or a different city and a new scenery that kind of you step away from the work physically, but sometimes it can open new ideas and avenues mentally that you can bring back with you, and that's super important when you're
And I'm not saying get tired of things right away, because I feel like sometimes somebody will start a new sport or a new hobby, and they don't excel right away. Or it's in business, they don't excel right away, or whatever it is, and they want to do something different. That's not what I'm trying to say.
Of course.
I'm saying that when you're used to the consistency of your life and all the work you put in, whether it's at the gym and you need a break, or in your business, it is good to sometimes gravitate towards other areas, for a positive reason, to help you get back to work and work even harder now, or work harder in the gym because I took a day off, or whatever the reason is, so.
what for people that maybe know you personally, or people that just know you through business, or maybe even people that know you online, what do you think the biggest misconception is about you? What's something about you that you feel misunderstood?
That's a great question also. Here's what I truly believe. It's hard for a lot of people in life. I don't know what percentage it could be. It could be 90% of people in the world. It's hard for a big percentage of people to be okay with and to see could be success, it could be a life that they want to live. It could be anything that they turn into a negative connotation in their mind. Whereas, to sum up kind of your question, like I do everything I do for other people and myself. I enjoy the life I live. I'm grateful for it. Right now happens to be one of the toughest times in business in years. Going back to a couple of years ago, I went through a challenging time. I had a great couple of years, and now we're back. It's a cycle.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying that I'm not successful. I'm not saying that we're not going to get through the challenging times, but you sometimes don't expect things to get thrown at you so fast. And those are the people that make it in life, the ones that just like buckle down and realize I'm going to get past it. The reason I had brought that up is I feel like a lot of people might see me as just like the business person, the guy that just cares about work, the guy that, just cares about himself maybe because it looks like I'm trying to like, be that guy or whatever it is, when that's the opposite of the case. I'd give my T-shirt off my back to anybody, who needed it, or give them my last dollar. I've done it before. There's been times in my life where somebody came to me to borrow money or ask for money. Little did that person know that I had to borrow money to give them the money. You know what I'm saying? So you never know what someone's going through, and that just shows who you are as a person, sometimes. And it's got nothing to do with just financial stuff, So, yeah, I mean, I'm a normal person that enjoys coming to work, that wants to do as many things that life has to offer, things that I at least want to do myself.
Yeah.
And I think as I grow and as I evolve, I know a lot of people see me traveling on the weekends and doing all these different things because they say it to me. That's what I enjoy, and it's to show people also that this is what you can do if you do work hard. Not right away. I didn't do this 5, 6, 7 years ago. You could ask anybody I'm in business with. I slacked off. I might get yelled at because I took a 3-hour lunch break, but I wasn't taking 3, 4, 5-day trips. I don't even do that now.
Yeah.
I got stuck last weekend. I'll do a 2, 3-day weekend trip just to, because I want to or whatever it is, and, to do something with my daughter or my friends or my family, but it's always, it's right back to work always.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I feel like a lot of people see me just as that business person that, might only care about business, and sometimes that looks to other people like that's a selfish thing, but it's not.
Yeah.
I want to build a company so that I can help people, help their families, help them change their lives, change my family's life, and give as much back as I possibly can.
Yeah.
I'm always trying to get involved in doing things to give back and help other people when I could be going through the worst time in my life. I just always try to stay forward and think forward,
Yeah.
no matter what's happening.
Where do you think that selfless approach is stemmed from? Like, where did you curate that? Because a lot of people, especially in your shoes, have done well financially, have done well in business, and there's a lot of people that are in your shoes or even more successful that kind of keep it all to them. But for you, you seem like someone, like you said, you'll take the shirt off your back. You'll always put others before you, even if you don't have it. Where did that stem from?
Going from being a young kid, I was always one to, like, if I was going paintballing and my friend couldn't go paintballing, like, how do I get him paintball so we can go paintballing? If I was doing something, whatever it was, and somebody didn't have the ability to do it, I would figure out how they can be there, or whatever it was. And I feel like I always had that quality embedded in me from a young age. How can I bring everybody together? How can I be together with other people, so we could enjoy that experience, or, whatever it was. So, and then I guess getting into business, at like a real business, when my father and his partner gave me an opportunity, at 19, 20 years old, and I started to become somewhat successful. Not like financially successful, but like I was making some money and everything was starting to get better. It gave me the opportunity to do more for other people. I just always had that instilled in me, and maybe it's not the best thing, that you just want to give everything to everybody. Like if I'm wearing a nice watch, I want you to wear a nice watch, and like that's just something that I've always, again, a quality that I've always had embedded in me. And where did it come from? I've been through a lot of challenging times in my life as well. Some people would say they're self-inflicted. I would also agree that a lot of the problems I went through younger in life, and even recently, and even now, are self-inflicted. You know, we could all make better decisions. And I think just me struggling myself sometimes, it helps me realize, and I know for a fact that other people struggle, because I know I got thick skin. You know, I've dealt with, and not things that, like, you lost a parent. You know,
Right.
I can't even imagine, you know, the feeling of something like that. So, like, you might look at my problems as like, what the fuck are you talking about?
Right.
You know, but everybody handles their problems differently.
Right.
So I feel like maybe through me going through some things in my life, you know, my mother moved to Florida when I was younger. You know, I moved in with my father. You know, my parents were divorced. I never made that an excuse like a lot of people do, but we could all go back and look at reasons why this happened and how this happened. And again, I also believe, besides like becoming somewhat successful in business, you know, monetarily and just in general, going through some challenging times, that also, I feel like, brought that out more in me. Like, I want to be there for other people.
Yeah.
It's just always been like that.
Yeah, it helps you empathize with people like when you go through hard times, because a lot of like you don't know what the highs are if you've never felt the lows.
Right.
And you know, a lot of people that haven't been through something can look at other people's struggles and problems and feel no empathy towards them. But when you have been in like a bad or a dark place or a rough time, when you see someone else going through it, you know what that feels like. And sometimes when you're in that position, I'm sure there were people there for you to help you get out of there. So you want to be that person for someone else, because a lot of people can't do it on their own. But I think that like I have that selfless approach to a lot of things, where it's just like, as long as you're good, I'll figure it out. And that, like you said, is there sometimes a problem with that? And I do think there is, because
Some of us always figure it out. That's
Yeah.
why. And some don't.
yeah.
So to think, like you're saying, there could be a problem with that.
Yeah.
You can't always think you're always going to figure it out, because it does get to a point sometimes where you're not going to figure it out, you know, and not to be selfish, but it comes to a point where you have to, again, and I've said this so many times, like, if you can't be like really good for yourself, how are you going to be good for other people? You know,
Yeah.
so it comes to a point where sometimes like being a little bit selfish, you know, is selflessness for other people.
Yeah.
And I've said that before.
Yeah.
You know, let me ask you a question. I know we've talked about, you know, your mom and losing a parent as a young kid. Like, would you say like that was the point in your life, like where that kind of forced you to grow up, you know, like emotionally? Like,
Oh,
what else
yeah.
could happen in life that would make you like realize like, okay, like there's no other emotion like this one?
Yeah.
Like that has to probably be, I feel like, the nail, like on the, like hit the nail on the head with that one, right? I feel
Yeah. I think it definitely forced me to grow up young. Like, if you lose a parent at a young age, when you go to school, kids are worried about their math test score, and then you're on the bus ride home like, damn, mom isn't there anymore. So your average 12-year-old problems aren't your 12-year-old problems. Then you have to see her husband, my father, deal with dad, who was once your superhero, and now you're seeing him like in his most vulnerable, weakest moments. So that definitely forces you to grow up at a young age. And when you take that mindset into like, all right, this is the worst thing that's ever happened to me, and I got through it, well, all this other stuff, it's not that deep. It's not that serious. But I think you're so young at 12 years old, you don't understand the like repercussions or side effects of how this is going to affect you later.
Correct.
So I've seen it affect me on both spectrums, positive and negative. The positive is like this resiliency, like I'm going to be good no matter what.
what happens.
But there's also this negative where I've seen it affect me in my relationships with women, right? So like I have this like attachment issue because I hated losing people because I was so close with my mom and then I lost her. So now, even though I'm not losing a parent right now, say I lose a girlfriend, or say me and a friend have a falling out, or say I even attach myself to this reality that I wanted, this career, I set an expectation on what I want out of life, and I lose it. I attach myself to things I really care about, and then when I lose them, I don't take it well. And I think that stems from losing the parent at such a young age. So that's still something I'm trying to figure out. So I think, you know, there's always positives and negatives. as long as you're aware of the negatives and then you want to take the correct steps to approach that situation, that's key. But a lot of people go through like childhood trauma and then they victimize their life and carry it with them forever. I've had friends that, lost a parent or went through something really tough and they went down the complete wrong path. Yeah, I could have done that too. So it's like we can always play the victim. We can always say, well, I'm here because of this. And you can't have that mindset if you want to accomplish anything in life or just be like mentally okay, because you're always going to find something to put the blame on for why you're not at where you're at or why you feel the way you feel.
I always have this crazy idea that I can make somebody like operate and think the same exact way that I think, and that's just never going to be a reality. So whether it's looking at other people who are excelling in an area that you're not excelling in, or somebody's at a different point in life in a relationship, or they have the family that you always dreamed of, you have to just stay grounded and realize that there's a process and everything is going to happen the way it's going to happen anyway.
Yeah.
So you can't play the victim and blame other people for being where you're at. Like you said perfectly before, like when something happens like that in life, like growing up and losing a parent, it just, the resilience that you build as a human being, you just feel like you can go through anything.
Yeah.
Whether it's a good thing or a bad thing, and it's
Yeah.
obviously a terrible thing.
Yeah.
You said it perfectly, because I remember growing up and like my parents got divorced at, I was 2 years old. I don't remember.
Right.
I have flashbacks, like it's crazy. I have flashbacks of like walking in like the driveway, or like remembering a conversation in the house, like weird things, not bad or good things. Just like I remember certain things. I also remember like who we talked about, on my last episode, my grandfather who passed away at 61 years old. I don't remember. I remember it happening, but like if that happened now, like it's so much more of a tragedy because I understand it now.
Yeah.
Like a lot of people, like when they go through, even like what you went through, you were so young, so yeah, it happened, but you might not understand it, so it doesn't affect you until later on in life.
Yeah.
In different ways, like you just said.
Yeah.
In a relationship or whatever it is.
Yeah.
So yeah, even like the stuff, like my mother had cancer when I was in high school. I was 17 years old. I wasn't like that young, but like I don't like really remember that time. Like,
Yeah, you can't process
I
it.
can't process that time because I feel like sometimes when you're going through something that's bad, you try to pretend it's not bad. And like, how do I just get past this and through this thought or this negative thing that's happening?
Yeah.
And like, you got to deal with reality,
Yeah.
because it's happening.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's what you had said, and I 100% agree with, is like it's different points in life where like those certain things will start to come out and you realize like, holy shit,
Yeah.
this has to have something to do with that.
Yeah.
I get told I've spoken to people in the past, I've gotten told plenty of times like, this is because of that, this is because, this happened in your life and like you lived with your father or whatever it was. And I'm like, I don't know if that's the case. I believe I am built a little bit different than most people. Are there certain things that happen because of certain situations that may have happened in the past, and like may you react a certain way to something? Or yeah, I believe that, I do, but I also do believe that people do handle things completely differently depending on who it is. Like you said, something might happen and somebody goes off the deep end, they start doing drugs and doing things that are going to only make the situation worse, whereas other people are like, okay, I'm dealing with this, maybe I'm emotional, I cry, I let it out, or I talk to somebody, but what am I going to do? Am I going to make things worse?
Right.
Or am I going to move forward and realize that I can't control everything?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
life's crazy, man.
Yeah. What do you think? What do you think the difference is between a nice guy and a good man?
A nice guy and a good man. I feel like a nice person might just come off as somebody who you might think is trying to do the right thing by you, or it could be a business transaction. Like, oh, that guy seems really nice. That deal sounded so good. But then, like, once you get to know that person, it might not be what you thought it is. I believe a good man or a good person, that's somebody who, might take time to realize the qualities that they have or, the way they operate, but you just could tell how somebody operates in life. You could tell when they're family-oriented, when they're faith-oriented. You can tell certain things about a person, which indicates if they're a good man or a good person. I feel like sometimes you'll meet somebody who they come off as like the coolest guy or the coolest person or the coolest girl, and then you see really quick who they truly are. And maybe it's not that they're a bad person, maybe it's just not for you, or maybe they are a bad person. I have no idea.
Yeah.
But I don't know the answer to that question. But I believe that, you know, a good person, is somebody who, after time and after, going through challenges and going through adversity, that person's still there. That person's around. They're resilient, as opposed to like, yeah, he's a good guy. Like, you know, what does he do for me? What has he done for the world? What has he done for his family? I don't know how to explain this, but
Yeah.
that's like kind of my understanding of it.
Yeah. Yeah. I've heard, like, I spoke
Good person takes time. It takes time to become. You could say everybody's a good person, but it takes time. I feel like you can be a good person. I'm sure are we born as good people? I don't know.
I don't think so.
I don't think so
I think
either.
we're all born like innately to
Based on your
sin
environment.
and
Yeah.
just be, yeah.
We all think things that maybe we shouldn't think, or whether it's good or bad or whatever it is. But you're a product. One of the oldest lines in the book is that you're a product. One of the oldest lines in the book is that you're a product of your environment.
Yeah.
So if you grow up around an abusive household, there's a chance you might be abusive to someone later on in life because you think that's okay. If you grow up around somebody doing drugs, you might try drugs, more than the person who grew up around somebody who doesn't do drugs.
Yeah.
So that goes with, I feel like, anything,
Yeah.
In life. And trying to get, it's tough because some people never have that opportunity to get around the right situations.
Right.
And it's almost like, could that person have been a good person? If they had the right guidance, you never know, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah. I've heard like two people that are both doctors and they work in psychology and in relationships and marriages. And they usually said the difference between like a nice guy and a good man is the nice guy is a doormat and he will shape and mold himself to fit what other people want him to be, even though it goes against what he actually stands for. So like you'll say yes to things that you don't really want to say yes, but you just want to make them happy. And over time you start to like dislike yourself. And men will do that in relationships, right? Well, instead of, going to the woman that's super solid and seems like she has her stuff together, they'll go and attract like a broken woman because like they want to be the savior, right? They want to be the nice guy. But like a good man usually will just stand on his morals and values and like he knows when to say no. He knows when, all right, I have to do this even though it's going to hurt your feelings. Like Jordan Peterson always said, it's better to be a warrior in a garden than a gardener in a war. So you have to have this tenacious, crazy mindset as a man, but you don't always have to show it. And I think like the good man knows how to like tame that. The nice guy will just try to just confide to what everyone else wants him to be.
People pleaser.
Yeah, but he'll never be who he truly wants to be. And I think like good men, they'll do that. McConaughey said that on Chris Williamson's pod. He basically said, he was like, a nice guy says yes to everything. And he was like, a good man, he goes, if people show up to your house in a van with 10 deep and they're trying to kill your family, like you lock the door and you make sure your family's good and you go out there and you try to, survive. And he was just like, so many men don't do that now. A lot of people just want to be liked. And it's better to be, it's just better to be like true to yourself because you never truly feel confident in who you are is if you're trying to fit what someone else wants you to be,
Yeah. And I feel like a lot of people aren't okay with being misunderstood sometimes.
Yep.
So even like you said, and my explanation was way different than yours, and I feel like you could look at it in different ways. I've been a people pleaser. I want to just say yes, and yes, no problem. I'll take care of it because that comes from being selfless. Like I want to take care of you guys. Somebody calls me, do you know this person at this restaurant? Yeah, no problem. I'll get you in. I'll get it taken care of. But does it get to a point where like they're just like reaching out to you because they know you're gonna do something for them? Like life is kind of crazy because is that the case? And yeah, yeah, a nice guy and a good man. It's tough because I see both sides of it, because I am like that person that just wants to always say yes if I can. But then at the end of the day, you do have to do what's best for yourself and your family. And, sometimes that comes with, giving somebody an answer or doing something that might not please everybody.
Yeah.
And that's the tough part about life, which is why it's harder to probably be a good man or a good person than, like what you had said before, because it's not easy to make the right decision sometimes. It's
Yeah.
easy to make the wrong decision, but it's not the easiest thing to make the right choice,
Right.
sometimes. So,
Yeah. Yeah, it's tough. And I feel like, yeah, I've been both. It always feels better though, like being the good man, like doing what feels true to you versus just doing something because like you hope that
just like
they like
business,
you a
like,
little more.
you could stay comfortable, right? Like I've had the best, most comfortable situation for a long time, just doing what I do every day, being successful, not having anything to worry about. But then, like, I also think, like, the other end of it, like, is that what I really want sometimes? Like, do I want to just be comfortable? Of course not. That's what made me start this new location and this new company, and that's what's leading me to do bigger and better things in my life because I want to be a good man
Yeah.
or a good person. And that comes with, again, like we just said, sometimes taking that leap of faith and not just, being okay with the current situation or just people pleasing or whatever it is.
Yeah.
Sometimes you have to realize that it might take time and might be a little more challenging. Some people might be against you. You might not think the people that were there for you or that should be there for you, they might not be there for you, like whatever it is, and again, we all deal with life in different ways,
Yeah.
so
What's something about fatherhood that humbled you?
what's something about fatherhood that humbled me? About, I'd say a few months before I was having my daughter, um, I realized that there was some things in my life that I had to change. I had no choice but to be successful in business. I wanted to change my health and my fitness and do all of these different things because I was now going to have somebody else to worry about, over myself, my child, and I realized real quick that life kind of just goes on, sometimes, and it might sound bad to some people, and I'm sure some people will understand, that life doesn't always go that way. Like I plan to do all these different things and become this much of a better person and do this every day because I was having a daughter, and some of it happened. A lot of wonderful things happened in my life as soon as I found out I was having a daughter. I truly believe that God blessed me in the sense that I put in the work for a couple of years, and you know, He realized I was having a child now, and I'm going to reward you by making life a little bit easier. Maybe for the first couple of years or whatever it was. What humbled me is also realizing that a lot of the people that you think when you have a child will start to come around more or be around more or be there. You think like in your mind because you're having a kid that like you're the only one that people are going to worry about now. And that's not the case. As I had said before, life goes on and life continues. So I think it's pretty humbling knowing that you're kind of not on your own, but you're on your own now. And like you have another person to worry about. And no matter what happens in life, you're a decision maker for that person now. You're responsible for that person now. You have to just naturally humble yourself. And I've had a hard, in business, it's hard to be humble, in the real estate business, because I feel like you could look at humble, a couple different ways. Is humble being successful and not showing it, and living below your means, and like what is humble to some people? When it comes to my daughter and having a kid, I just believe that again, yeah, dealing with things on your own, having no choice but to make sure things are taken care of, realizing that that comes first now, even though I wanted to go out at that night or, go on that vacation during that time or whatever it was, it naturally humbled me because I know the type of person I am. I realized when I was having my daughter that, I need to build the best foundation and the best life, and I want to do everything I possibly can to make sure that all of the things that I feel like I struggle with as a person, that maybe she might not have to, or maybe it could be a little bit easier, for her. So that's a tough question. It just naturally, I feel like humbles you, like when you're
Yeah.
having a kid, you know, if you're somewhat of a normal human being.
Yeah.
And there's people out there that just, life just goes on, like the kid's not first.
Right.
And that's sad to see.
Yeah. What what do you hope your daughter says about you when she gets older?
That's something I've focused on and thought about more recently because as she is now becoming, I don't even know what the word is, like a young lady. She's 5 years old and she's like, it's amazing the personality and the way she laughs and talks and formulates sentences. I've realized that as much as we have this crazy life and the business and like we have to work all the time and, it's a grind, I want my daughter to remember me as that good person that we talked about, the dad that was always there for her, the dad that took her on vacations and made memories, the person that no matter what happens, like she knows, like when she gets picked up at school and I'm not there sometimes, like she's like, where's daddy? Where's daddy? I hear it from them, and that's a good feeling. I feel like that means I'm doing something right, so all I can pray for is that that continues. And by me doing the best I can as a father and a parent and a family man, I just pray that she realizes not all the sacrifices, but that it's not easy, to give somebody and give a family the life that they deserve. It's not easy, so I just hope that one day she remembers me as somebody who was always there, for her. Maybe I don't, you know, maybe I don't do all the funny, giggly things as much as some of these other parents because I'm just not that person, but her and I have a great relationship, the best relationship, and I'll make sure that as she gets older and as I get older, you know, the busier I get, that's going to be number one because I want her to remember me as the best person, the best father in the world. I want her to, really appreciate, and I appreciate her. I want us to have the best relationship. That's the most important thing to me because I see parents not have the best relationship with their child, and that breaks my heart. I can never imagine not having a great relationship with one of my parents, no matter what happened. No matter what happened in life, no matter what you think they did, no matter what they think you did, it was just always embedded in me, as a human being and as a child of parents, to no matter what happened, I'm gonna make it right. Let me make it right. So other people don't have that in them, and it's sad to see that. So going back to your question, I just want her to remember me as somebody who was always there for her and remember me as somebody who would never, ever, ever do the wrong thing, by her. And I hate to say like I'm excited for her to get older because I'm not. I want to reverse life, and pause it sometimes, but I'm excited, to see the growth of our relationship because I just know it's going to be a great one, and
Yeah.
I'm excited for that.
Yeah. What's one habit that keeps you sharp that you do daily?
So funny. There's something I do. You're talking about in business?
In general,
Just in
what's
general.
something that keeps you sharp that you do every single day because you know you have to do it to be the best Dean?
Just consistency. That's really it, consistency. And I'm not saying it's at the gym or it's at business or it's playing golf. I'm just consistent every day, whether it's my early day or I show up late that day, I always show up. I'm usually there. You know what I'm saying? I'm never one to go have a late night out and then disappear for 2 days or, do something that's gonna, make me not be available, like whatever it is, I always pride myself and I always was a big believer in you have to be consistent. You might not have the same result every day and you might go to the gym tomorrow and be like, oh, this sucks getting through this set. But if you show up most of the time, that's going to make you excel in that area of
Yeah.
life. And that's just being consistent.
Yeah.
So even on the days that I don't, and even recently with the gym, I've become very consistent with just making sure I get there, and doing what I have to do. Consistency is like the number one thing for me.
Yeah.
If you can't stay consistent with one thing, I don't care what you say, you're probably not going to do it with something else. To a certain extent, there are some things, that I believe that, like, if you do it, like, you might not do it in another area. Like some people might think I smoke too much pot, even though I do it at night or whatever it is. And like for me, like, I know I can be consistent, like, in other areas. Like, I show up to work every single day for the last however many years. I might not be at the office, but I'm working.
Yeah.
Whereas, like, some other things, like, you can't figure out.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I'm saying? It's like sometimes you have something figured out and you can't figure something else out. But I think overall, if you can just stay consistent and realize that you have to show up most of the time, you're going to get the results you're looking for, just with
Yeah.
anything.
Yeah.
But you're always going to struggle still, and that was my point and why I brought that up.
Yeah.
Because along with staying consistent does obviously come things you might not be able to do as good as you'd like,
Right.
I don't know.
What's something you're actively working on as a man? Like what's something that you saw that you maybe were struggling with that you wanted to make a change and really start working on to be better?
Learning how to handle situations, mostly in business, in a way that lets other people know that, holy shit, like, he didn't overreact. Something must be wrong. Why is this person not lashing out and doing what they normally do, and sending that email or whatever it is. I started making money young, and with that, a lot of the times comes with not anger, just like, like, I want to do this now, like, this got to get done now, like, we need this now.
Passionate.
Wearing my heart on my sleeve, and a lot of the time that comes with sometimes handling a situation, like, not in the best possible way. Like, going back to what I was just saying is I'm focusing on, and it happens every time a situation happens. I take a step back now, and I think to myself, like, should I react this way? Like, normally I would send an email, I'd flip out, why are we not doing this? Why are you guys not doing your job? What's going on? But is that the best way to handle things? Like, is that the best way to operate? Are you going to build a company that way? Are you going to build a team that way? Are you going to have people believe in you if you're that way? Because going back to the beginning of this episode, trying to make people operate the way you are is never going to happen. So, like, if you react in a way knowing that it's probably not going to change because they're not you,
Right.
it's just only going to set you backwards. So I'm learning in my older age, into my 30s, that reacting a certain way, whether it's in business, and I feel like I've learned the personal life thing, like, you can't overreact with certain things you can't control, whether it's a relationship, a sport you suck at that you want to get better at. You can't just get mad. I used to get mad on the golf course when I was 15 and, not throw my club, but, like, hit my club down. And now, like, come on, you hit a bad shot, you move on to the next one.
Yeah.
Your mindset just shifts as you get older, I feel like, because of experience. But yeah, that's something I'm working on every day, is just not really overreacting in certain situations.
Yeah.
Because sometimes doing the opposite is more lethal.
Yeah.
People take you more seriously when you're the quiet one, and I'm sure you've seen that before. Like, when somebody's not reacting in a way that people might expect them to do so, now they're gonna be like, what the heck is going on, So I'm trying to take that approach in life, lately, because it's also better for your health. No reason to get so high-strung over things you can't control, so that's something that I'm focused on. That's important to me,
Yeah, just learning to adapt.
learning to adapt.
Yeah, adapt, because we see, like, recurring things happen over and over in our life in different aspects and different situations, and we always get the same result, if we react a certain way in a sport, with a partner, with our parents, in business, that same reaction, like, it has a domino effect, and, like, if you can learn to realize, well, when I didn't react this way with my girlfriend, imagine I took that same approach to all the other aspects of my life. So I think it's just being aware and just learning to adapt to situations. And sometimes it's just like thinking before you speak. I think so often we're so quick to react and so quick to judge and so quick to want to figure it out because we have that innate passion inside of us. Like let's get it done. Let's figure this out now. But sometimes if you just take, whether it's 30 minutes or you take a day before you process it a little bit, you'll have a different approach when you finally confront that situation. I think too many people are over emotional with certain things that end up giving them a worse result if they were just a little bit more patient.
Correct. Yeah, when you act with emotion, a lot of the times you don't get the result that you're looking for. Yeah. Like if I want somebody to do something with me, and could be flipping a house, it could be this, it could be that. If I come off as like, we have to do it now, we got to do it now, I need this, I need that. If you come off in a certain way, it's just a lot of people sometimes, I feel like, and most people will not want to get involved with you. I know you talk a lot about self-help, and that's something that's so important, to society. And that's a big reason why I also do my podcast, is to, give just my insight on some of the stuff that I've gone through, and having conversations with a gentleman like you and like a lot of the people that I meet with, whether we're friends or not. It's so important. A lot of people, even though they might go online and look at a podcast or see people on social media, when you look at like natural, raw conversation of people that go through real life stuff, and not just somebody who's on a yacht, like, or on a private jet, or like, and I can't be that person. This is amazing, and I appreciate this stuff. And the reason I was bringing the self-help thing up is because do you think there's a concept like in self-help that actually like does the opposite, like that actually harms people? I feel like sometimes somebody will focus on something so much and be so passionate about it that they might forget everything else, or whatever it is.
Yeah.
What do you think about that?
Yeah, I think when people dive too deep into the self-help and self-improvement space, you can go down the rabbit hole, and you can, read all the self-help books, and you can do all the meditation practices, and you can do the ice baths and the saunas and the sleep routines and the morning routine. You can do all this stuff, but it's all the same message. You don't need to read 30 self-help books. They all are painting the same thing. And a lot of the time, like with self-help, we all know what we need to do in our life. But it's good to sprinkle in that self-help because it's a reminder. So many of us, we have so much going on in our life with family, relationships, business, work, career, we sometimes lose sight of that. So I think tapping into that side and shutting the social media and the phones and the TVs off for a second and sitting in silence, right? And just letting your thoughts go. If it is opening a book and reading, 10, 15 pages, or reading a chapter of a self-improvement, self-help book, I think those times are very beneficial for giving you those reminders. Yeah. It's like for work. If we didn't set reminders on our phone or write down a to-do list, nothing would get done. So I think so often we forget to do the things that are going to make us better because we have so much going on. So I think using self-help as just like a little tool and reminder is good, but there is this like toxic self-help culture now where people forget that you still have to live life. You still have to have experiences. Like people use self-help as like this protective bubble. Like nothing's going to happen to me because I'm so resilient and I've done so much work on myself. Those are the people that usually fold immediately when something happens to them because they're not living in reality. I've learned the most in life when bad shit happened to me. Correct. I didn't learn the most from reading a book or doing a meditation practice. When I learned through experience, and you can't replicate experience. You can't replicate how you're going to react when the bad times come. That's when growth happens, like the only time you're going to grow is when you step outside of your comfort zone. Opening a book and meditating and doing the morning routine, it's great. I think that's something that you should put into your life. Don't allow it to become your life.
Correct.
And I think social media is pushing this this just like self-help narrative that we're all about self-improvement. And a lot of it's just for show. It's like, are you really getting better, or are you just more aware of something that you already knew innately was what you were supposed to do, but you just feel like you're doing something because maybe the people around you aren't? I think these self-help gurus and a lot of these people, like, you haven't even been through anything. A lot of these people haven't been through challenging times in life or struggled or gone through things. Like, they're trying to tell people how to live life. I want to listen to the people that have been through shit, people that have gone through things that maybe I have, and I see them come out on top. So now I can, all right, he was once in my shoes. Let me follow his footsteps or take nuggets from what he did. Or the people that have had really, bad things happen to them and then they persevered. All right, well, what did they do so I can learn from them? I think that's the stuff you learn from, not the, toxic self-help stuff. So I'm like, yeah, I'm both sides, but I think there needs to be a balance.
Yeah, and experience was a great word you brought up, because so many people have looked at me like I'm crazy, like going through some of the things I've went through in my life and even financially. And when you talk about experience, the reason I'm so confident and comfortable, even when times are bad, and my bad, is because with experience, you know that no matter what happens in life, that you can build back fast. Mm-hmm. And you can't build it fast from the beginning, but once you have that time in, and you've gone through the ups and downs, and you have the time and the experience that you put into something, it's easy to level up faster. And there's so many people online that you see nowadays that they might be successful, they might be making money, but if they don't have the experience, like you said, they're going to fold like a pretzel when something happens that's challenging, or when real adversity sets in, so... Yeah, experience is key, man. I've always tried to be around people who, they might not be the person that I want to become like, but I see a quality in them that I want to get better at, because maybe they've practiced it more, or whatever it is. So experience is so important, and having time into things and not expecting the instant gratification like we always talk about. It's a very important part of life. And it's something I struggle with too, because you want it now. You want it to happen now. Yeah. Especially when you have a setback in life. When I have a setback, I look at like, okay, like I got set back to this point. Now I have to not only get back to where I was, but how do I get to where I really want to be? Mm-hmm. And that's a scary thought sometimes, for a lot of people, because if you just do the math, sometimes it doesn't math. Whatever. It could be numbers. It could be anything. It could be I want to get into a certain physique, or whatever it is. And that's the scary thought sometimes, is like that amount of time it's going to take to get there. And once you become okay with that and the process, and become okay with knowing that there is a process, and it's hard to say that because not everybody's in the same situation as you. Like, if somebody comes to a new job and like they have financial pressure because they have a family, they need to make money right away, but that's not how life always works. So that's the strange part about life, is like finding that fine line between, like, how much do I work? Like, how much do I focus on one? Like, life's just crazy, man. It always throws constant, I don't know what the word is, constant things at you.
Just curveballs,
it's up to curveballs that it's up to you to get through, and up to you to deal with in your own way. Yeah. And like, what's the best way to do that? That's up to you to decide.
Yeah, I think patience is the best skill set that a man can learn. I really do. And it goes back to that process that you're saying. It's you set a goal to go and get something, and then you get the thing because you thought it was going to make you happy, and usually it doesn't make you happy as you thought it would.
Correct.
As happy as you thought it would. And you look back, and then you realize, like, the best times between point A and point B was everything in between. If you want like this crazy physique in the gym, and then say you finally reach those goals, you're gonna feel that sense of dopamine when you hit, that look that you want to look in the mirror, that body body
Finally
percentage.
bench 300 pounds.
Right, you hit these goals, but it like you look back and it was that whole time in between, the bad days, the good days, the struggles in between that you look back and appreciate, right? And it's the same thing in business. Like my goal is to hit $1 million. When I hit $1 million, I'll finally be happy. And then you hit $1 million, and now the goalpost moves. Now I want $10 million, right? But you can go and look back and you're like, damn, like I went from making, $3,500 a month to $100K a month. That process in between was so rewarding. The people I met, the days where I thought it wasn't going to work, and then I finally got that call, those are like, that's the life, that's life. It's not like, I think like 90, I forgot the percentage. It was like 96% of our life is like the in-betweens. A very small percentage of our life is reaching that mountaintop and getting that thing that we strive for, setting an expectation, and then finally achieving it.
Well, it's a great way to, and not to cut you off, but like if you talking about success, like a lot of those successful people that a lot of us look up to say you only have to really win once. Mm-hmm. You're going to have some small wins along the way and a lot of losses, but all it really takes is like that 1, 2, or 3 good times that you have to win. And like, that's it. That's what indicates life,
Yeah.
So to talk on what you were, to speak on what you were saying is the ups and downs and that in between part, that's the process, man.
Yeah.
You're going to see the wins and the losses and the success and everything in between. But like, once you get to that point, is it enough? Right. No, it's never enough.
The goalpost always moves.
The goalpost always moves. I've been in that same position. I'm still in that same position, but I'm okay with that. Some people aren't okay with that. I'm okay with knowing that it's not enough. I know what is enough. Like, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
If that sounds a little crazy or whatever it is.
No, it's real.
It's like it'll never be enough, but like, it's kind of enough, like to the point where your family's taken care of, you don't have to stress about leaving here and going to eat dinner right now, when some people do in life. And like when you humble yourself, like we talked about, and you understand that like you have to be grateful for the in-between part of the process.
Yeah.
It really does make you look at life from a different perspective because, I can speak for myself. I've been in that mode where it's like you feel like nothing's right, you're just angry, like why is it me? Why me? And you can't be that way.
Yeah.
You can't be that way. If you're going to play the victim card, you're going to always play the victim, and that's going to lead into every aspect of your life.
Yeah.
And that's probably not the recipe for success in anything.
No.
So.
Yeah. Yeah, I think the most dangerous position a man can be in is when he has nothing to work towards. I think that's when a lot of men get in trouble. When a man has something that he is working towards, not only for himself, but for the people around him, distractions usually aren't an issue. But when the moment you feel like you don't have anything to live for, you're lacking purpose, you don't have anything to work towards, that's when a lot of men get themselves in trouble. Whether it's with drinking, whether it's with drugs, whether it's with women, whether it's with hanging out with the wrong people, putting themselves in bad positions, because that work and that purpose that we're chasing keeps us alive. And I feel like when we don't have that in our life, we feel dead inside. So then we go chase it and search for it in the wrong things because it makes us feel alive for the moment. And then we always regret it. So I think it's just so important for us to always have something to work towards. Even if you reach the pinnacle in your life and career and you'd never have to work again a day in your life financially, monetary wise, well, set a new goal. Whether it's in the gym, set a new goal, whether it's with starting a new business, set a new goal to build a better relationship with your family, right? Like there's always something that we can work towards. And I think they say the devil, an idle mind is the devil's playground. And I think that for men, when this isn't focused on something, there's too much around us now, from our phone to what the world has to offer to us that isn't good for us, that we can just put ourselves in really bad positions when we're not focused on something.
It's a great point because I always have like something going on that I'm trying to excel in besides my business. Now it's boxing. I do golf, we'll go bowling, we'll do different sports or hobbies. And because I know that when I'm not like, to my ability, the best at something, I need to become better. I got to
Yeah.
practice more. I need to do this now. And that's so important because a lot of people look at that as like you're trying to get away from what I do. Like I do mortgage lending. I'm a mortgage banker, and that's my whole life in business. And, you know, when I sometimes pick like that next thing I want to focus on, to others that looks like, okay, well, you're not focusing on this. Just like media. Just going back to when I started this platform in 2022 with you, or 23. Not a lot of people thought it was a great idea for me to do something different besides sell mortgages and speak about mortgages to people. I'm grateful that I feel like, and I truly believe a few years later, this helped elevate my career and my business and, helped me get to the point where I'm at now. Even though I'm going through a challenging time right now, again, with experience and because the work was put in and because I've gone through some of the tough times in business, I know that I'm going to get past this. It always looks like when you're focused on something that's not like your main thing that you're trying to maybe come away from that. But yeah, I believe that like finding things to excel in, whether it's a hobby or a sport, it's going to keep you consistent. It's always going to set the bar higher to be better. And that's going to naturally, I feel like, gravitate into other avenues of your life.
It'll bleed. It'll bleed into other areas.
Like for me right now, it's boxing. People think I'm crazy. I want to do that fight for charity in November.
Yeah.
And we've been in fights growing up and like messed around, of course, but it's not like being in the ring and
Yeah.
putting gloves on and being in front of somebody who like you're there to fight.
Yeah.
To other people, it's like the craziest thing in the world. And to me, I'm like, okay, like you hear all these professional boxers, they started and I don't want to offend anybody, but like you started at 7, 8, 10 years old, and by the time you're 25, you're a world champion, right? So you put 15 years in and you're a world champion. I'm confident that in myself that I feel like what somebody could do in 15 years, I could do in 5.
Yeah.
So I feel like if I put the work in now and the work that I've been putting in, that I'm going to be successful, even if it's at boxing in 2 or 3 years by the time I'm 34, 35.
Yeah.
And like, it just like goes with anything in life. And that's the point of what I'm saying. If you put your mind to it and you do the work every day, just like in business, you will get rewarded by results.
Yeah.
Whether it's the result that you think is great or somebody else thinks is great, it's only important what you think, obviously about yourself. So
Yeah. Yeah, it's fun. It's just fun to work towards something. It's like a video game.
So mark my words, what I
Yeah.
said.
No, but like it's cool that, if you were already a 99 overall in boxing, it wouldn't be that fun. But it's
Correct.
like creating a player in a video game that you can't just raise the attributes.
No,
to
like as you
99.
go, like they
As,
get.
you
it's
know,
so
like
funny you say
that's
that.
that's
Yeah.
where it's fun. Like that's when video games.
And
got
I
boring.
enjoy it. That's why I'm doing it. Not to be like, okay, I could be a professional boxer in 3 years
Right,
when you
but
took 15. No, like that's like my own
Yeah.
confidence and drive and like
Yeah.
why I am who I am.
Yeah. It's like it's like beating a game. It's not fun anymore once you beat the story mode. You already finished, you already did it. But the fun part is the building of the attributes of the player and unlocking new weapons or new gadgets to excel in it, right? So that's like unlocking new combos in boxing and like in basketball. There's always something like that's when it's fun. But it's once you're at the pinnacle, like the fun is over. So that goes back to what I was saying with the work, right? Like having something to work towards keeps us focused, and it makes life fun.
And that's why I brought that up, because that doing other things like that separately from what I do every day,
Yeah.
it makes me wake up over here also
Yeah.
in my mortgage business,
Right.
In the mortgage industry. It
Right,
makes me
because if you
realize-
don't handle that, then you can't go do that.
Yeah,
you
it's
can't
like-
just go box without dialing the
It makes
phones
me
and
work
closing deals. You know what I'm saying?
Correct.
So it's like if I want to do the things that I love, I got to handle what I have to handle here first.
kind of fuel each other. Just like going back to what I was saying as we finish up, like with doing the media a couple of years ago, like I knew in my brain that this is a long-term play. You're a perfect example. You've put so much work into what you do for how many years, longer than most of us, and the consistency and the way you've dialed in, you're seeing the results.
Yeah.
You're starting to see real results. And it's amazing to see that because it just shows that how many times have we talked about, like, what the fuck is going on? Like, this is not working. Like, why am I getting nothing here? And it could be me, it could be anybody, but then eventually you're like, holy shit, wow, it really works. And maybe it's not financially right away, but once you see improvement, like, the good things come.
Yeah.
The good things come. And you could, I'm sure, even speak for yourself. Like, if when did you start your podcast? Like
2020.
2020. So like in 2021, when you were probably 50 episodes in, right? And you didn't get any views for your first 50 episodes, right? You said it took a while to build up, the results that you have now. Did you think that you'd be where you're at in 2026? You might in your brain think, okay, I'd have more money by now.
I really thought I'd be way farther along, honestly.
Listen,
but that's part of learning is like we set expectations on what we think a certain result's going to be if we continue to do the same thing, and that's why you have to constantly evolve because what worked 4 years ago doesn't work today.
and the whole point of what I'm saying is people look at you like in what you do, and they want to be like you.
Right.
So that shows you're doing something right, and the work that you've put in pays off, and you might not feel it. I don't feel that way in my business all the time, and that just comes with, like, I feel like anything that you do, just like people look at me and they say, I want to be the mortgage guy like Dean is. They look at you and they're like, I want to be like Zach. I want to get 100 million views a month. I want to be like that.
Right.
So it's like making money and stuff is great, but there's also a lot of good things that come out of doing the stuff that we do. It naturally helps other people, and that naturally should reward us in life. And God sees those things, Yeah, I truly believe that, again, putting out the right energy and staying consistent, and doing what you have to do, I feel like eventually it just pays off for those people. Sometimes there's bad people in life that what do they say? Like, nice guys finish last. I don't know if that's necessarily true. Nice guys might go through, like, I feel like a more challenging ride sometimes, but, like, do they really finish last? I don't know. That's something that's, I'm sure, open for debate, but, a lot of the bad people in life, eventually they crumble. Some of them make it through, but it usually comes back. So it's like the whole point of these episodes, and I'm sitting down with you and everybody else, and it's amazing to, again, just have conversation like this, and I'm always grateful to do it with you because you helped me start this, and I'm excited to see over the next couple of years as I get more consistent now again, as I'm learning from who I learn from and, just doing more, I'm excited to see the results that, life brings. And, I'm going to work on the things that we all talk about, because if you're not doing the things that you say and you're not being consistent and you're just speaking about it because you think social media is just perception and it sounds good, like a lot of people do. Yeah, and being a doer and taking action, an initiative in life, that's something I'll continue to pride myself on, because I don't wake up every day to come here and put the time that I put in, around the people that I'm around, to stay at the same level, So I've became okay with understanding that, we're going to get through all of the times that are tough. And this was awesome, man. I appreciate your time as always. I hope, my subscribers and hopefully new subscribers tune into the After Hours podcast, and, stay tuned for the rest of season 3.
Yes, sir. Thank you, bro.
Thank you, brother.